Good evening. This is another edition of MnemoConnect, one of the 5 activities that compose Mnemo channel. Mnemo channel consists of 5 different activities in the form of live videos that alternate every Thursday, always at 7:30 p.m. Brazilian time zone. On MnemoConnect, we discuss conscientiological subjects, especially those most related to seriexology, through debates and interviews with our guests from international cosmetical conscientiological community. Tonight, we're going to talk about the internationalization of conscientiology and seriexology. For this discussion, we have 2 guests that we will introduce after the opening. Stay there. Our first guest is Australian, and she lives in Foz do Iguaçu, Brazil since 2014. She has a background in urban planning, urban design, and currently works as an English teacher. She has been a volunteer of Conscientiology since 2007, and she is currently coordinating the international area of CIAC. Yet she used to be with us in this channel, working as a team as a volunteer. Welcome, Jaclyn Cowen.
Thank you, João Paulo. Very happy to be here.
Happy to see you again.
Great.
And the next guest is a metallurgical engineer, Master of Mechanical Engineering and specialist in continuous improvement. He has born in Rio de Janeiro, currently lives in the United States. He's a penta practitioner, verbetrographer, and teacher of conscientiology. He's a volunteer and member of the board of ISIC, Interstitial Services for the Internationalization of Conscientiology, a nonprofit organization formerly linked to UNICEN. Welcome, Marcelo Pires.
Thanks, João. Good to be here.
Nice to see you. And first time we're having you here, actually. That's good.
That's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. And to starting off, we are discussing tonight, I explained already, but touch more. We are discussing the new perspective of the conscientiology overseas, with ISIC especially. And what do you guys what do you think is possible international milestone that could be achieved in the next decade with this expansion of the conscientiology abroad?
Well, I think that I'm going to start, Jaclyn, and then please complete.
Yes, as current coordinator of ISIC.
Yeah, and then that's the key thing is conscientiology. It's a science that developed initially in Brazil, and then I think that the best step now and the progress is more and more that we have it being developed in other countries. Okay, having the conscientiology being developed in other languages. Okay, not only English, but could be German, French, Italian, Romanian, and so on. Okay, it's like the intermissivists that are the persons that during a period of time between two intraphysical existence, two lives, they prepare themselves for the next task that they have, the next project mission, or we call it also existential program or ProX. So on doing this, okay, we have this group of people all around the world. So the key thing, the key milestone is to make available this science to be like retrocognition retrocognitive agents. Sorry for that. And then with that, we help these people remembering what they planned and starting to develop the science, and then being instructors, teachers of conscientiology abroad. I think that that's the key thing, having more and more people researching and then teaching, sharing their experience, and then with that, having it being developed in each different culture across the world. Jaclyn, what would add?
Yes, exactly. I mean, how could I say? We're talking about 10 years. I mean, ultimately, you know, in the future, that would be the ideal, you know, having conscientiology and seriexology, these new sciences, being available for everyone around the world. That's the ultimate aim, to have the same level of how can I say, accessibility to the information that people in Brazil have in the Portuguese language. So the language is definitely to improve the number of languages that this new science is translated to. So in terms of books, courses, you know, and more trips, international trips, I think that's a must. And also creating these centers, I think we call them maybe hubs, but these different centers in the main parts of the world, so representing the different kind of groups in the world, which can, how could I say, accept people or institutions or different specialties going there, people going there and teaching about these different areas of conscientiology. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be still done, but we're going in that direction.
Very good. It's a lot of things to do, actually, when you're starting with a new institution. So important that it already have some experience and now is formally in the plan of conscientiology, actually. And with your experience, both of you, what do you think is the most important trait or strong trait, mega strong trait, the volunteer must prepare or have to work in this kind of, you know, volunteering internationally?
Yeah, how can you, it's difficult to choose just one, but I think a mega strong trait would be something related to neophilia. I think this openness to new things, you know, openness to new cultures, openness to new languages, openness to different ways of thinking. You know, I think it's very important that each of us, the volunteers of conscientiology, if we're, you know, going out into different places of the world, we have to have this, this respect, this openness to different people, different ways of thinking, and see where we can meet. So I think this is a mega strong trait of the person, and it's something also I think that people who work in the international area, they do generally have this strong trait and possibly developed in past lives.
Yeah, and then I would add, besides this neophilia, I think that other thing that would be important, it's about communication. When you're thinking about the connections that you need to make, the bridge that you need to build together, communication, that's everything. Okay, and then we are talking about understand, having empathy when you're doing this communication, empathic communication. We are talking about polyglottism because we are going to develop knowledge. We are going to develop the science in different ways in different countries. So it's important that we can read the reference that we are going to have in French, Italian, German, English, Portuguese, that we have most of the material available today. So to make these connections, this polyglottism, okay, this multiculturalism, that's really, really important. How we communicate, how we understand each other. That's a key thing.
And you guys have already worked in a venue itself in overseas with Isaac, a
Sorry,
course or something over there?
can we repeat? Sorry.
A venue, any course or thing. Have you worked on that or organized something abroad?
Yeah, I mean, how could I say? I don't know if Marcelo wants to mention something, but for example, we just recently had an event in Australia, international event, the first event of its kind in Australia, in conscientiology. So, I mean, I was helping. No, I was not so directly helping, but I was helping with some side activities. So. But yeah, this is very important. I see. It's kind of like a divider of water. I don't know, a turning point, should I say, in terms of conscientiology, bringing conscientiology to different parts of the world. It's very interesting, this process. But was there a certain question related to that, João Paulo?
Yeah, and what's the difference? You live here. Actually, you live here in Brazil. You are now in Australia, but you know how the things work here in conscientiology and how it is the difference between working in a country in somewhere that's no much conscientiology and work here is easy actually compared with outside, right?
Yeah, because you have less volunteers. I remember in Australia, I was there volunteering for 7 years, and there were between 2 to 3 volunteers over the years, like that were completely committed. And so you have to do everything yourselves. You become quite self-sufficient in being able to perform everything that's needed related to sustaining yourselves. Our main work or volunteering was teaching. So we gave lots of courses, and we were in Sydney, but we also traveled to Adelaide and to Melbourne, to other cities around Australia. And you go as far as each of you can do the work, but it gives you a very good skills in being able to sustain things. And of course, you feel the help. Like the helpers, right? These extra physical consciousnesses, I felt very, very strongly when I was working there. And because, if it's just a few of you and you're doing this work by yourself, it seems like you get more help, more assistance in that way. So it was a very, very nice experience to have. I don't know, Marcelo, how your experience is in the United States.
Yeah, I think that first comment about Australia, I think that the good thing is that the group there is growing, people connecting. Like in Isaac, if my memory is right, we had around 9 volunteers right now in Australia, plus the other volunteers from other CIs, conscience-centric institutions. So one thing that's important on that is to do this supra-institutional work, okay? Because we are not so many across in different countries, so we need really to interconnect, to work together, okay? Doing partnerships to make the events happening. So we had this event before I'm going to talk about my experience in the United States, but we had this event in Australia. Last year, we had an event in Romania, okay, that was a partnership with Jaclyn. So when we connect with different groups, okay, it'll be easier to do it, okay? The load will be lighter. And then here in the United States, what I feel like I had the opportunity to contribute to exactly to Jaclyn. And of course, we did the fundamentals of conscious evolution here in Georgia. And then it was amazing. Okay, it's like a few people working on that. Like we had 3 people locally working in the organization, me and Anna Yogan giving the classes, plus Adriana Pires, my partner, my wife, helping on all the organization, plus the people that were helping us from Brazil. But yeah, it's like you need to go an extra mile to make the things happening. But as Jaclyn mentioned, okay, there is also a lot of extra physical help to do these activities. Like, and then that's something interesting, because for each different country, or sometimes a region in a particular country, you're going to realize that the team that's supporting you, that's helping you on that activity, you change. Okay, you'll be extra physical consciousness that are connected with that particular group that in that particular area. And then that's something that I think that's even more impressive than when I had that experience. That when I think that Jaclyn was in that kind of meeting, we do the meetings in Isaac in English. So once we shift to Portuguese, and then we continue talking about something very serious connected to the volunteering, but for some reason we shift to Portuguese. We could feel that the extra physical helpers, the team that was connected with us, changed. Like it was another group that was with us. So that's something that's very interesting, because you want to contribute to work in this clarity task in another country, for example, me here in the United States. So there is an opportunity to connect with this evolved consciousness, extra-physical consciousness that wants to work in that particular activity in that particular country where you are. And that's nice. And there we are not so many. So it's very important, this interconnection, okay? People from ACIP, from Consecutivos, from Reaprendência, OIC, okay? Isaac, everybody connected and working together with that to make these events happen.
And in these experiences, what's the best way possible to approach seriexology for new volunteers and students? Because sometimes people new in conscientiology are still loaded with mysticism and religiosity and this kind of, those things. And what's the best way to approach and to explain the things in a scientific way?
You first for me, Jaclyn?
Go ahead.
Okay, so one tool and approach that helped me a lot, it was when I did the School of Consecutive Personality with Consecutivos. Okay? It was a course that has 3 different modules, and then it was in Portuguese, this one, and then it gave the steps by steps to do the research. Like I went to that course thinking about researching a particular key personality, and then I end up with another one, okay, and continue evolved with that one, the study, and then that's it. The first thing is make it as a technical approach, okay. Look for the groups that are connected with that region, that culture, that country, that people that have some connection with you, okay. And then from there, starting to look for like synchronicities, tips, or to see what makes sense, what does not make sense. But the best thing is to do it in a structured way, okay? To go away from preconceptions or any mysticism. Because as you do this investigation, the results will start to showing up. But besides this technical approach, I think that the most important, in my experience, the most important point is that you connect this research with the assistance. Okay, what groups can you assist that are connected to your past, from your Seriexology, okay, from your past lives, okay? What group can you assist with that? What recompositions you can do? So there is a reason, for example, that Marcelo is in the United States. What his past in the country that he needs to improve, to give a new meaning to that relationship between the consciousness that today is Marcelo, and then that particular groups that you're connected. And then as you do this scientific approach and also study the history of the place, you start to get some tips about what could be the best way to do it. But I think that it's bringing the approach from, instead of you to help others and contribute to others with clarity task and then recompositions, but at the same moment, use your methodology. Get somebody that can provide you a methodology that can help you to steer away from mysticism or any preconceptions.
So yeah, it's interesting while you were talking, Marcelo, because I was thinking about, when you're in the teaching space, you're as a conscientiology teacher, and then you have that interaction with the students, and especially in the international different places that you would maybe teach, and you have your own past, you have your own holobiographical past, and you were connected to many of these groups in the past, whether it was through the mystical line, through the religious, areas. So first and foremost, you need to, it's helpful, it's healthy to recognize your connection there, For example, and we often study that in consecutivas, the traces that we still have, or in conscientiology in general, that we have from these different groups. But to not use it, how could I say, to kind of put yourself at the same level. Yes, we have access to this knowledge, this leading edge relative truth. We no longer want to practice these certain types of ways of thinking or behaviors. But we have our connections to the group, okay? So I think this rapport that we have to our past companions, right, in these different areas. And of course, the clarification task, right? I think it's to treat each person as, as intermissivists. If they are intermissivists, they would have done the intermissive course. They would have already come across this information in their, in the intermissive period. So to not think that, you don't need to dilute the information. You need to, they're there. They are there because they are curious. They want to know about the ideas of conscientiology. So you need to, provide this information. But how to create that link? How could I say, clarify about those areas? And I think a lot of this is to do with understanding these areas. For example, what in the place that you travel to and you teach, what are the what are the ideas that they have? Research about what's popular, the popular thinking, and that's and through arguments, through evolutionary arguments, you can help to, persuade in a cosmoethical way that these ideas are more up to date, evolutionary speaking. But yeah, that's. I think this, this communication, what you were saying, Marcelo, before, is very important.
Yeah, I remember once when I was in Australia, and I went to a speech somewhere about was about not conscientiology, but was about extra physical things, energy and stuff like that, but in a more simpler way, and but wasn't mystical or religious actually, but they try to be scientific. And when I saw the whole speech, and when I talked to just having conversation with someone there, and I talked about conscientiology at the time, but she didn't understood nothing whatsoever what I was talking about, because it's the approach of them was much more, simpler and less complicated, and she didn't know what I was talking. And I think this is a challenge for us because Brazil, sometimes people come to us and just they do want to know what we are talking about things about conscientiology when we are doing a course or something. Out there, it's not this way. I think this is a kind of challenge, right, for a volunteer.
Yeah.
João, one thing that's important is I think that there are a lot of activities in Brazil. Okay, a lot of researchers, a lot of courses, so happening at the same time. And then when they are happening, okay, you call the attention, and people heard about that, and then they get curious, and then it's natural. Some people you approach you, and then you ask about what it is, what you're researching, conscientiology, what it is. Oh, it's a science that studies the conscience in the whole way, then series lives, the series of lives, and so on. But this is to happen when you're abroad. Okay, you don't have the same level of exposure. Okay, with don't same level of activities. That's something that you take time to build. Okay, so we're doing this live here today. You, me, Jaclyn, you have Takaki on the backstage. So it's one step. Okay, we have other events that ASIP does, that Isaac does, that Reaparência does. So as people kind of bump with this information, or that talk with the people that are living abroad and studying this field, and sooner or later you have going to have people in your connections or that approach us on the YouTube or whatever the social media that it is, and you come and ask about, hey, what's exactly it is. And some people you get curious, you ask, and then may not connect with the idea, and some others they may say, oh, it's interesting but not for me right now, and others they may, oh, something on that, okay, and then I want to know more. So, but it's all about the communication. As we talk and discuss more, people will show up. Okay, we are going to have this. We need to remember that what you do here, that's creating a holotocene, a set of thoughts, sentiments, and energies that connect the people, and then the people you start to interact, and then talking more about that, discussing more about that, and then this is when you start to attract people that may have connection, that went through the intermissive course, and then wants to research a little bit more about this. Jaclyn, you would say something?
Yeah, just to complement what you were saying, because I think there is factors involved. I think, you know, I've always thought this, but when I moved to Brazil, I noticed how open the culture was, relatively speaking, right? In terms of parapsychic phenomena, talking about these different topics, conscientiology topics, not maybe using the exact words, but, you know, the phenomena. And even in the we call it the novellas, the soap operas, yeah, or soapies in Australia, they had that touched on these topics, and I was thinking, how would that help young people in general to develop the synapses, you know, to accept more or understand more the information of conscientiology. In Australia, we don't have that as much. So I think that one thing that plays a part, you know, to develop the synapses in relation to this. But besides that, I think it's the level of intermissivity, you know, the how strong was the intermissive course? Because I really think if a person was, you know, if this is not the first time they've come across that information, if they've had an intermissive course, then it's just a matter of, you know, when they come across those ideas and it resonates, then, you know, that will increase their awareness and lucidity about that. So, and I think, you know, intermissivists are spread around the world. And so, yeah, it's but I do agree, João Paulo. There are, like, for example, certain maybe ways of speaking that's related to the culture, the language, that a person should be aware of, that can help to make connection, that bridge, you know, for people to better understand the ideas. So
yeah, and we have a question. Diane is saying some people find easy to work on the task of internationalization of conscientiology. What does it mean if we consider the holobiography of the consciousness?
Yeah, good question, Diane. So I think exactly. I think me, Marcelo, the other volunteers that are very much immersed into the international work, you know, volunteering of conscientiology. For me, I have no doubt that even though this is the first time that I'm working with conscientiology in my intraphysical life, this idea of internationalization, you know, working in international way, I think is something that I would have done in past lives. You know, and we, in terms of the holobiography, like there's different types of kind of functions or roles that perhaps we would have played that would have given us those skills that would help us now in our work, certain strong traits that we already discussed. But so things like adaptability and pioneering skills, and a sense of universalism, although maybe in its infancy, it's a little bit more developed. And for me, for example, and I'm sure, you know, there's so many different roles that you could have played, whether it's in the monarchy or in, you know, as a diplomat or in the religion. One specific role that I know that I played, for example, was with translations. So you have different schools in the past that were very focused on translating like manuscripts or books from different languages, like from, I think it was in the Middle Ages, from Arab to Latin. And there was School of Toledo in Spain. And there was these different, and it was like this kind of meeting point between different religions and different cultural groups that came together in order to be able to translate these books, right? So, and nowadays we translate conscientiology books. So it's the same skill set, but applied now in a more elevated level.
Yeah, just to complete what you are saying, Jaclyn, typically one of the ways or techniques to check what could be your existential program or your ProX is to verify what are your strong traits. Okay, so of course, when you think about holobiography of the consciousness, well, you, as Jaclyn said, you developed these strong traits in previous lives, okay, in previous existence. And then you need to pay attention because sometimes there could be some strong traits that you guide you also to look for where can you contribute more. Okay, for example, it's do you have, as the example that Jaclyn was saying, some people has some facility with the translations, with language, with interpretation. So that's one way to contribute. Okay, other people is about teaching. Okay, other people use it to travel. Okay, have some facility to adapt and to have good communication with other cultures. So those are things that needs to be considered, okay, when we're thinking about how can you contribute as a mini piece on this max mechanism, okay, what will be the part that I can add and add more. So, and then it needs to be one thing that's important. We are talking here about also about ProX, okay, is this activity, this ProX aligned? Okay, this task of expand conscientiology in other countries aligned with your ProX. Okay, and that's something. And then other thing that we need to think about, because when we think about expanding, sometimes we're thinking about people that went to Brazil or to other countries, and then they are going, But we also need to think that there will be people in, for example, United States, in Germany, that are getting contact with conscientiology for the first time, for example, in English or in German, and then that they are going to go through their self-development and then understanding what's in it for them in conscientiology, okay? Why it's connect with them, and what's the existential program that they may have agreed with all the people that are living in that particular country. Because conscientiology, more than ever, it's something that develops locally, okay? We have a global connection, but we need more and more to develop it locally in the different countries.
Nice. And if you guys go to a new country, a place that you haven't been in this life, and how important it is to study the history of this place and the current culture in there on your work.
Yeah, it's super important, I think. I think if you want to develop more of a rapport with the group there that you are, assisting or interacting with, I think it's essential to know about the history, but also to, when you start studying the history, especially if you have a connection with the place, it might be that, you had a past life there. So the history can help twofold, can help to create more of a rapport with the place and the group that you'll be interacting with, but also in terms of your own holobiographical research, to understand more where the possibility, right, of you being inserted in that history, in that, in that place or near that place or connected to that kind of culture. This also helps you, it helps with the evocation as well. And evocation, it's you can use it in a positive sense where you evoke through the studying, the reading and of history and the culture in order to attract more consciousnesses, extra-physical consciousnesses in order to assist. So this helps enormously. So yeah, I think it's super positive to know, to understand, and also you develop this connection with the group, because inevitably you find things, you understand things, you develop a greater connection as well with the group and the place.
Very good. Marcelo?
Yeah, and then I think that we get surprised, okay, sometimes when you start to research, okay, the history of the place. And then that's a really important step. You may, for example, realize that you are in a particular city, and then there is a lot of history and the conflicts with the native population of that particular area, okay, that today they are not present, okay, but extra-physically they continue to be here. And then when you understand that, you may understand also the connections that we have with that conflicted period that we had, and then understand why you may be visiting that particular area to recompose or to do amends with things that we did 200, 300 years in the past. Okay, so, and as Jaclyn said, you may have even some retrocognitions or some insights or just some ideas about how can you improve something in yourself and in your relation with that particular groups that may not be physically anymore in that area, but extra physically could be very well present.
Yeah, that's true. I've been in some places that I felt I wasn't welcome, even if I like the place, but extra physically, there's a kind of pressure that if you can spend more time there, sometimes it vanishes. You can, overcome that. but sometimes not. If you have time, you can work on this with the consciousness that are there. And you guys think that internationalization or international volunteering is for everyone?
Well, needs to be connected with the practice of the person, okay? And so some people may add more value on or it's more being more connected, continue to be in that particular country where they are. And then I would like to step out a little bit, because sometimes people think about internationalization as going out from one country to the other, and let's keep this way, okay? Like people that came from Australia, like Jaclyn to Brazil, okay? And then, but people need to understand, for example, somebody that has the contact of Conscientiology in the United States, it could be developing the science locally where they are. Like these international migrations that we do, they need to have a purpose, okay? So you may do it like a technical visit or a technical itinerance, that you go there to give a class, or with a group to do a particular visit, or doing Penta, the personal energy task, in different places. But also, okay, you can simply move to a different place. Like I had the opportunity to move to 4 different countries. So, but why I'm doing that? I think that's one question. And then you may do the move, and then still feeling that something is missing. Or we may do that move and think, oh, everything fits perfectly. So when you're thinking about international migration, you need to do a very careful planning, evaluate pros and cons, beyond the physical, intraphysical part, but also considering the extraphysical, and then the connections, the holotocene of one country, the holotocene of other country, the history of each country. Okay, but it's if you're going just to do a visit, giving a class, that's a different experience. Okay, so that's something that's kind of a temporary immersion. That's also important, because we need to exchange these informations. But to make short something that I make a long answer, I would say that hey, that's not for everyone, okay? But for some people, that's what they need to do. Okay, because each ProX that's singular, that's fit for that particular consciousness, for that person that you go through that experience, that needs to have some activities, some contacts, and with other people, and so on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say that it is part of everyone's ProX to have a certain percentage of internationalization. Maybe not the main part or the cause, but to have a certain percentage. I think to not just look in your own little world, but to look, to gain this sense of universalism through this internationalization work. So I think, all of us, but there are some people that have as their primary cause, their main work is to be involved in internationalization efforts. But I would say, yes, it could be to do with circumstances, the fact that you're living in another country, outside of Brazil, and automatically that would, if you involve conscientiology, you would be involved in the international area. And then there are people who have, who don't even need to travel. They have that international mindset. They can be in their own place. They're in Brazil even. There's people who haven't even really traveled much, but you can see that the way that they think, the way that they act is international. They're always concerned about the people in other places, other countries that don't have access, to conscientiology. So this has a big connection, relationship with, I think, past lives, but also maybe in being in places where you know, they were the foreigner, or, you know, they didn't have access to things, and they had to create that bridge, or helped other people to, you know, get access to information, or whatever it was, to integrate into a society that was different. But also in terms of the pro-access, you know, I think in the intimacy, of course, that time when they would have planned for their program, they would have planned to come to help with the internationalization efforts.
Nice.
And then just to complete here, because Jaclyn brought one very interesting topic, okay, because I was approaching it more in the sense of the person having that in face-to-face, chakra-to-chakra contact in other country with the other people, the local population. But with the technology since COVID, okay, we broke these borders, okay, because today you can contribute to the internationalization of conscientiology, being local in Brazil or in Spain, and then being reaching people from 20, 30 different countries in one single event that you may do online.
That's right. That's right. The online has helped hugely, online work, and to connect people. There's only one other thing I would like to just mention, like in relation to this question, in terms of my own example. I was the kind of person, I was always in the international area, but only when I moved to Brazil did I really, how could I say, did I really wake up to the fact that my process is international. So sometimes only when you move to another place and you see the demand, you see the need, and it just makes so much sense that, you know, that's where, you know, your efforts would go to helping to translate, to help other people in your situation. So
yeah. Have you lived somewhere else apart of Australia and Brazil?
I traveled to many different other countries, but and it just stayed for like 3 months, actually 3 to 6 months in the US, 6 months in the US, but no, I haven't lived like long term.
It's so different when you go somewhere to a specific period of time, and you know when you go back home, and when you go to a place and you don't know if you go to your country again, right? So for me, so strange, but you know, it's part of the business. But
yeah.
And I could tease you, João, and asking about okay, where is your own country? Okay, because we have been part of so many different countries or places around our biography.
True, that's true.
Sometimes you may born in a particular place and then you come to another one, and when you arrive at that place, you feel at home. So that's something that you need to look to yourself and asking why.
Yeah, and that's one question I would like to make to you about this. When we go somewhere that we like so much, and how can the volunteer in general, how can this volunteer can be aware for don't miss the track? You know what I mean? Because in the new country, sometimes have to work, starting a new career, make money, have to live somewhere, and many things to do. And he loves the country. And sometimes it's easy to lose the track of the conscientiology. How can we prevent for this happen? Anyone?
It's interesting. Yeah, I can say something just quickly, but it's interesting because at the campus in Cognopolis, which is the center of conscientiology, it's much easier to stay on track because the Holocene is all about evolution, it's all about conscientiology. So it's very favorable for that. But when you go to another country and you're alone, you may not have any other conscientiology volunteers near you, and you have to be more self-sufficient in maintaining that focus, because you have to create a holothosene in your life that, you know, includes multidimensionality, you know, and there are ways to do it, but it's not like it's in your face. You have to, of your own initiative, create those routines, those healthy routines. So it's not as easy. And for those people who suddenly, you know, because new in a new country is a challenge. You have to, you know, get a new job. You have to maybe learn the new language, understand the new culture. Everything's different. So there is a period of adaptation. But even in that period of adaptation, you can't lose sight of, you know, of your multidimensional process, your intermissive process. And so you have to always keep that contact. Those people who say, no, for now, I'm just going to focus on, you know, on my life, you know, getting my life, you know, on track. This is the period. I think this is actually not such a good idea. I think you always need to maintain that contact, even if you lessen, but you can practice conscientiology 24/7, you know, being in contact multidimensionality with energies. Maybe you reduce your volunteering a little bit, but not, I would recommend not to stop completely, but it is a challenge. It is a challenge.
Yeah. And then Jaclyn touched on the point of the group. Okay, so we have in Foz do Iguaçu, in Cognopolis, this holothosene that they have there that well established, hundreds of people researching conscientiology. When you're abroad, one thing that helps a lot is when you have your evolutionary duo that's also with you researching conscientiology, because sometimes you may be the only consciousness in a radius of like 1,000 miles that is interested in that particular subject. Okay, but when you have like your evolutionary duo with you, or your wife, husband that is also research the topic, becomes easier to create these routines that Jaclyn mentioned. Like when I was studying alone, it was much harder. And then typically I went in this kind of traps that Jaclyn mentioned. But when Adriana, my wife, decided to also invest more and then say, I'm going to study more and I'm going to start volunteering and so on. Hey, it's like one person in this duo starts to support the other. And then it goes a little bit more smoothly. It's challenging, okay? You need to create your routines. You need to have this representativity about conscientiology abroad, but you are not alone. You have somebody that you interact and you have intelligent discussions during the day, during the night, about the different topics and the challenge that sometimes when one is have difficult, the other one helps, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's true. What Jaclyn said, it's very true that conscientiology must be part of us 24/7. And if you are dedicated to that, we can do anything we have to do, anything we like to do, and still have our extra physical thinking and our parapsychism and everything in mind all the time, because it's part of our life anyway. Yeah, and
Penta helps as well. Penta helps a lot with that.
True. Yeah. We have another question from Mario Luna. He says, how can digging into our own holobiography with languages and multicultural experiences help us in our work of taking conscientiology worldwide? On the screen for you.
Interesting. Yeah, because specifically with languages and multicultural experiences, right? So those, I guess, Mario, you're talking about those lives that dealt with, these sorts of things, which is interesting. Yeah, yeah. I think I mean I mentioned already the translation, right? I think I was involved with past lives where I translate a lot from one language to another. I know that, for example, because I have a Jewish background, I know in the past I would have had lives as a Jew, and the Jews were very much in terms of migrating from place to place, needing to learn new languages. They were very good with languages. They had, you know, a lot of different multicultural experiences. So that's something that, you know, I research. And yeah, this adaptability, right? The skill set that came with that, the adaptability, this ability to go from one place to another and easily, yeah, adapt to that new place. And also, you know, at the moment I'm researching some, and it's interesting because it was just before I traveled to Australia, and I had a retrocognitive experience related to someone actually quite far back in the medieval period. But as I'm researching her, I see that she's very much connected to the Australian group, and it helped me to kind of connect the dots in terms of, how could I say, my connection, why I was born in Australia, you know, and the how could I say, and Marcelo, you spoke about the conflict, right? And why maybe I would have experienced some conflict, and what I need to do to resolve, you know, the assistance that still need to give to this group in order to right the wrongs from the past. So, but in a general way as well, she was very much someone who, from a young age, moved from England to Germany, lived in Germany, and then she came back to England. And this idea of having dual nationality, or being, you know, having two different cultural identities, is something very much that helps, or multiple cultural identities in one life, that would definitely help in how could I say, resonating not just with your own culture, but knowing that you had past lives in many different cultures and different places, and even in one life would have had those experiences moving from one culture to another. And this very much helps us to give us an international mindset in creating rapport with many different cultural, religious, ethnic groups. So for me, I can see that relationship.
Yeah. And then I would bring another interesting topic, that sometimes we have these connections, and then let's say the good connections about the language, the history of the culture of the different places. But when we are studying seriexology, also we need to also understand what happens when you have kind of dislike, or you try to avoid particular language and particular cultures, because there is also a tip there in your self-research for your autobiography that may have some kind of or experience that was negative, or something that you shame yourself and you don't want to visit that. So don't look only, it's like we can learn from good and bad experience. So we always need to also to look to the two sides of the coin. Okay. Well, some things that I have it's very easy for me, but also try to understand why something is so difficult for me. And that's kind of painful sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting you're saying that, Marcelo. And also I was thinking about if we have the tendency to maybe defend one group over another, we have to watch for that, right? So may have defended the patriotism, right? One group in the past against another group, England versus France, or, you know, England versus the United States. And so we need to pay attention to these little nuances, you know, tendencies that we have, and to cut them. Because nowadays, you know, if we want to develop this universalism, then we need to treat all consciousnesses, regardless of the nationality, in the same way, right, as consciousnesses in evolution.
Yeah, this kind of retrocognitive experience, they help because, hey, if you've been like have memories from being in English, okay, memories from being French, memories from being German, okay, Italian, hey, makes no sense, okay, a Brexit, for example. So makes more sense, about, okay, how can we break the borders, okay, and then being more universalistic.
Nice. And when we travel around the world, we always find people that we can feel, sometimes only feel, that parts of our past. And sometimes it's a good part of our past, people that you get along with very well, and people that it doesn't happen. What the best way to deal with this, with the past that makes us feel and do better, and the past that makes us more difficult to deal with? What's the best posture from us?
Well, I would start with that. I think that the best poster is to remember that you are on your best version. And the other consciousness, the other people are also on their best version. Okay. So evolution, that's a process. There is no, okay, no quick way. Okay. It's a process that you need to go through different experience and refining yourself as a consciousness. And then this is for both sides. And then you need sometimes to understand and look for, okay, if I'm having an easy connection with somebody, okay, am I on this connection? It's only the good things from me, my strong traits that are coming up with this connection, with this interaction, or some of my weak traits are also showing up because a common weak traits that bond us together. Okay, so even when you have a good interaction with somebody, you need always to a kind of meta-reflexive self-research. Okay, why I'm feeling that? Okay, it's positive, but why I'm feeling that? What's my connection with that person? Okay, and then to try to understand maybe what it can help in that person that I like it, because assist that person, or what that person can assist you. Okay, that's we are on the same level. And the same thing with the people that you have some kind of difficulty. Okay, maybe that person is remembering me something, a kind of weak trait that also have, or we had a difficult relationship. So how can we make amends in this existence that we experience right now? Like I had an example that somebody that I met in my teenager years that it was like hate at first sight. Okay, and then took years, but we became best friends. Okay, and then it was positive on that. So, and then from that process, I learned a lot of things that I need to improve in myself. Some of them I could not uh, work on that period of time. Later, when I get uh, more mature, and some others I still need to work. But it's always a process. These relationships, they talk not only about the other person, but talk a lot about you, and then give always an opportunity to have these reconciliations that may not be possible in a in the extra physical. So they are so uh, important. Okay, we need to give an important value for them.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, sometimes, and I think it's two ways, because, you know, and you always have to think about it. This is always an opportunity for self-research and reconciliation. So first of all, and recycling, right? This self-renewal or improving things within ourselves. But it could be the fact that, you know, if you come to a new place, and I'm thinking more about when there is an issue, and it's not the first time you've encountered this person or this group or this Holocene and something, you know, there was conflict in the past, there was problems in the past, and then you encounter this and you feel that resistance, you feel that pressure. It could also be that the other people, you know, that they see something in you, and, you know, that there is that kind of reaction. However, you are in a different place now. So it could be that the person or the people, they haven't yet been updated in terms of the new you, where you're up to. So sometimes that's a matter of some time. You know, you've recycled those postures that you know, that were very warmongering or bellicose or whatever it is, or very imposing, or, you know, during the colonization period or in wars or whatever. And this time, you know, you're no longer that kind of person. But the last time you saw these people was maybe during those times. So now everyone needs to update themselves. And so that's a matter of now having a new type of relationship, showing this better version, like you were saying, Marcelo, the best version of yourself and them as well, and having this moment to reconcile. But this takes time. So if you're willing to kind of put in the efforts, which I think it is, because I think in our life, it's the best opportunity to reconcile. And if you know, you happen to have this interaction with these people inside the classroom or inside another kind of situation, and take the opportunity to, you know, to reconcile. If not this life, then it will be another life. Another thing is in terms of your limits. You know, where is your limit? Some people, because of the stuff that they did in the past, they're not, if they go to a certain country, it's too challenging, too difficult, and they're just not able to sustain themselves. So I think you need to consider that when you go to another country. If it has a positive retro form. A retro form is how you interact, like you interacting in that environment based on your past lives, and it has an effect in this current life. But on the other hand, the opposite can happen, the rapport, right? The affinity, and the affinity goes both ways, but you know, these people that you encounter, and they're so familiar, and it's, you know, the first time you're seeing them, but you know, they just look familiar, and that can happen a lot on these international trips as well. So it's to pay attention to this and take note, because this is a point of research. You know, everything that happens, you can use it to identify things in yourself and connect that to the past.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes we try to get the things better in terms of a relationship we have with people with sometimes difficult with us. And there's sometimes that we have to just quit, because both have to want to get things better, right? When we have to, you guys think we have to decide to get away?
Ooh, that's a difficult question.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Because when we are relating with other people, sometimes it's working. When we are working, we don't have much to do if we need to work. But sometimes it's not that, imposed relation. But we feel that we have something more to do. Sometimes we are more lucid. We evolve a little bit more. We see the things clearer than before, than maybe the life we live together with this person. And sometimes we feel inside we need to help them, but sometimes we don't have much to do. And that's sometimes the time we have to quit. We have to, move away.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
If it's with a particular person, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go you first, Jaclyn.
Go on.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking if it's a particular person, and this is a principle of conscientiology, you know, if the person is open to interaction, to assistance, to receiving help, to the reconciliation, then it's possible to do it. But if they're not, you know, you act in the same way as a helper. You have to respect the limits of the person and walk away. It's not possible at this moment, maybe in a later moment. Because evolution, it happens regardless. At some point or another, it will happen. But in that moment, no. So you just need to, you know, the best you can do is to have a very positive and fraternal and reconciliatory posture towards the person. And I think that's the main thing. So from your side, it's all good. And I think that helps a lot with the situation. Sometimes this can actually influence the other person as well. If, you know, sometimes it's your energies, you know, if you enter into that kind of conflict with the other person and it just bounces back and forth. But if you're able to then fully resolve the situation within yourself, this can have a positive effect on the other, but not always. And the other thing is, in terms of the retro form, sometimes it's just you go into a certain environment. I haven't personally had the experience, but I've heard examples where a person goes into that retro form and tries to be there. They want to be there, but there's something always, you know, it almost like the person shrinks. They're not able to manifest in the same way as they would in other places. And that interferes in the work that they can do, the well-being, you know, the psychology, and you need to assess, is it worth it? You know, maybe, you know, that's the limit, that's my limit, and it's not possible to be able to sustain the work, to be able to do the work at a better level. So being in another place is better for that person to be able to do their extension program and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm going to first make a small addendum to the comment about the limit between the assistant and the assisted. One thing that you can also add to that, first, as Jaclyn said, even if you cannot have this relationship or the amended with the person because you are in a different wavelength, okay, you still can looking for your self-recycling, okay, to not to be affected by that person anymore. And also, there is also the resource of the Penta, the personal energy task for the people that practice that. That's the daily donation of energies for 50 minutes for a particular period of time. The person is isolated. So this donation of energies, it's something that contributes positive, even if that person is still in the old pattern. And then just make the connection about the retroform as something that's interesting is for the Penta practitioner when it's in a different country, is starting to evaluate what's the quality of your Penta in that particular country. This could be a metric for you to understand the influence of the retroform that Jaclyn mentioned on your Penta, or of course also in yourself. If you have difficulties to perform Penta in a particular country, you need to be very attent to the situation, okay? Pay attention and everything, because if the Penta itself becomes difficult, okay, also your manifestation in that country could start to be like reflecting not your current identity, but could start to reflect a past identity that you have in that particular region.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Very good. And moving a little bit the subject, but still in internationalization. When you work on institution of conscientiology, you have some plans, things to do, but it's locally. And when you, for example, have plans to go internationally in that institution, it's part of the work. It's one section of this work. But in ISIC has a difference because you have the whole world to think about. And can you guys say about the priorities of ISIC in this moment? What to do apart of doing courses and make the doing all the support for the volunteers around the world? What's the priorities? What the different things you must think about the internationalization itself?
Well, I'm going to start with that's a big responsibility that you place on the shoulders of Isaac, João Paulo, because this responsibility does not belong only to Isaac. Isaac is not the owner of the internationalization of conscientiology, despite the fact that we have internationalization in our name. Okay, that's a task that belongs to all the different CIs located in all different places of the world. Okay, so it's the first thing. Like Isaac is our main mission is to help the other CIs to do this internationalization process, okay, to have more activities out of Brazil in different countries. And at the same moment, we also want to develop to interact more and more with the intermissivists that are out of Brazil. So today, Isaac, we have formally our presence as a CI in Brazil, in Foz do Iguaçu. We are in the process of opening also another location in Australia. Out from that, the next move that we have is continue to have our workshops to help the other CIs and the volunteers to qualify that simultaneous interpretation between language, Portuguese, and different language that we did, like French, English, Italian workshops this year. We also plan to do new ones in Spanish. We have been discussing internally with the group about the next international week that we are going to have in Foz do Iguaçu next year. So that's a long-term planning that we have. Besides that, we are talking about courses, and not only courses developed by Isaac, but also partnerships with other CIs, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, when we talk about international acting in other countries, I think that the key thing is the union between the different CIs. Okay, we need to think a lot about a supra-institutional approach. Okay, how we connect, like Jaclyn said in the beginning about the hubs, how we connect under the idea of developing the conscientiology. Because if you try to do like 5-6 different CIs with 1-2 persons in a particular country, it's easier if you connect these 15 people under the same idea, and doing courses once connect with one specialty, another moment with another specialty, and so on. So we are at the beginning of the journey. We are still in the process of formalizing ourselves as a CI, but that's the way that we want to go. Okay, and then having more and more the people outside of Brazil developing their research, okay, and then connecting among themselves, and then generating neo-verpons, lead-edging truths, okay, from their research, and then working with the Claritas and connection with the people, and having these bridges across the different countries, different cultures, talked about evolution and how can each one of us evolve and help each other to evolve.
I think it's very nice, Marcelo, that you mentioned right at the beginning, the international work is the work of all of us. You know, it's the only way that it's going to happen. If more people get involved in all of the different groups and institutions, there is an international arm, and there are quite a few institutions. I know in Consecutivas they have one, related to past lives, and the apex related to the life purpose or proexis. And so, yeah, this all helps and contributes. At CIARCI also, there is, just in the last couple of years, there is a much stronger international presence. So this is also a huge part of it, to help bring people, and International Week is a big part of it, help to internationalize the campus, which is the center of conscientiology, Cognopolis, to make it international enough to get the information out so that people will want to come to the campus to understand more deeply about conscientiology. So how can we do that? How can we, have courses and in English and Spanish and the translation will help with that, simultaneous translation, but also, having courses in English as well, and training people to be able to give these courses, to create an international presence to attract more people. And I think this is, as much as it is about going out into the world, is about also, this exchange, right? Bringing people to the campus and having the benefit from the wealth of information knowledge that we have there.
That's really important, this two part. One, the polyglottism, when the person can go directly to this interconnection with people that speaks different languages. And also the simultaneous interpretation. If you have people that cannot make these language connections, okay, well, we have some people that has these skills. And here we have the invitation, okay, from time to time we are doing workshops about simultaneous interpretation. So that's a way to help the people that can't speak Portuguese or sometimes French, or to learn about what the colleagues are doing in different languages when we are delivering the courses.
Very nice, very, very nice. Guys, I think we are we are about to finish in a few moments. I would like each of you to say something, just to, we going to the end of this live, unfortunately. And please feel free to say something, and we're going to finish the live. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, just for me, it was very, very nice, interesting to create that connection. There is, how could I say, for those people who are in different countries, to do this self-research, to investigate, their existential program and their holobiography, their past lives. The more that you dig, the more you will find. So I really recommend to really investigate this. And it was a pleasure to be here, and contributing.
And João Paulo, I would like to thank you, Consecutivos, for this invitation. And then when we talk about internationalization of conscientiology, okay, here it's a open invitation. Okay, let's do partnerships, Isaac and Consecutivos. How can we better bring the Seriexology to people from different languages, okay, out of Brazil? So we need to do that, okay. I think that the Seriexology is very rich. I learned a lot with every course that I did from Consecutivos, and then it helped me to understand myself, understand why today I'm living, for example, United States. Okay, and how can I be more productive and have a better connection with the group, and then help everyone on our group proexis, okay? So that's amazing. Once again, thank you very much for this invitation. Let's do activities in partnership.
All right, I thank you guys very, very much. That was very good, very clarifying, and unfortunately, we have a short time. But we invite everyone who is watching us for the next activity of the Mnemo channel. It's every Thursday, 7:30 in Brazilian time, at 7:30 p.m. And we again thank you guys for accepting the invitation, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.